Hook story. All right. So once there was a village named Chelm, and you know that Chelm was so odd because when God was creating the world, there were a lot of souls that got out of the factory that shouldn't have, that were really, really damaged. And so God said to one of the angels, "You need to go to Chelm." Excuse me, wait a minute, backing up, forget that, delete. So God said to an angel, "You need to go and gather up all the broken, not quite working souls in the world and bring them back here so they can get repaired." And the angel goes and has this huge bag, and when I first started telling the story, there had just been an air controller strike, but that was during the Reagan administration, and some of you weren't born then yet. So I used to say, yeah, so the air controllers were all on strike, and the bag, he flew too low, and the bag tore on the top of the mountain, and all the damaged souls spilled out into Chelm. And there they lived very happily. They had their own logic, and if you came in with some other kind of logic, they would think that you were pretty stupid, because it just didn't fit. So once the bathhouse burned down in Chelm. You know, they tried to make the water warm for the mikveh, and it caught fire, and it burned down. And this was a problem because it was also the only bath in town. And everybody would go once a week so they could, stand each other, and so they could fulfill the holy duty of, mikveh. So they thought and they thought. Right now you're thinking. You're Chelmites, but you're thinking. They pulled their beards and they rubbed their forehead, and sometimes if they were hungry, they'd rub their stomachs, and they thought, if we go to the Jews of the world, they will give us money. They will give us tzedakah. This is such a worthy cause. And so 3 travelers among the Chelmites were appointed to go out into the world, and they were sent with this holy mission by the town council. And they went out into the world. You have to follow me. They went out into the world, and they traveled all around the world. And when they got where they were going, they asked everybody for tzedakah. Go ask these good people for
donations. Donations.
Money goes back.
Get donations for her. There you go. For the
A little tzedakah.
All right, after a while, they had really collected a lot of tzedakah. It was really, really what they needed. People had been so generous. It was so wonderful. But now they gathered with all of their wares which they had gathered. Travelers coming back to the stage, paying a little more attention to the narrator, are coming back to the stage. And there they are having a little meeting. Ariel, they're having a little meeting. Ariel was on the meeting by cell phone at a distant location. And they said, okay, great, now, how should we get this back to Chelm? They couldn't just take the money. Why? Robbers on the road, that's right. And then they thought, okay, let's buy what? What do you think they should buy? What do you think they should buy?
Feather pillows.
Shh. You know the end of the story. Okay, who else? What do you think they should buy besides feather pillows? It wasn't really feather pillows anyway, but that's a fine point. Come on, what should they do? Should they send it by Western Union? Didn't exist yet. Come on, how should they get the money back?
Blocks of lead.
Blocks of lead with gold inside, or just blocks of lead? Just blocks of lead. It would be a lot of lead that would take so much money, it'd be very hard on their back. So
gold coins in their clothing.
Oh, that's a good idea, but used very often, and so the robbers on the road know that trick. They thought maybe they'd buy furniture, fine furniture, but no, the robbers on the road would probably take the furniture. So finally, one of them came up with the brilliant idea to buy feather beds, because feathers were very, very expensive. So they thought this was a really good idea. Yay, this is a good idea. So they went out and they bought feather beds with all of their money. So they didn't have any more money. Yeah, you can take that. And they loaded the feathers onto a cart, and they happily rode back to Chelm. And when they got to Chelm, oh wait, I left something out. They rode back to the town where they were, and they said, the robbers will probably steal the feathers too. They waited till a wind was blowing in the direction of Chelm, and then they went out and they took all the feather beds and they opened them up and they threw them onto the wind in the direction of Chelm. And they happily went home with nothing that could be stolen from them. This is not the end of the story. And when they got back to Chelm, they said, the town council called a meeting to hear what had happened, and they gave a report to the town council. Give your report.
We did good.
Amazing.
with all the money we got. And you know what we did to make sure they wouldn't get stolen?
We set them free to come back to us.
And the town council said, good job. Everybody say, good job. Yay. Kol hakavod, good job. And they waited. And they waited. And they waited. And they convened another town council meeting, and they said, oh dear, as they pulled their beards and rubbed their foreheads and their stomachs if they were hungry, and said, where are the feathers? What should we do? And they came up with another plan. So the next day, they went to the edge of the city, and they took all of their feather beds with them. And when the wind was blowing back in the opposite direction, they decided that they would send their feathers back to show the other wandering fellows the way to Chelm. And so they opened them, and when the wind was blowing, they put the feathers onto the wind, and they blew in the direction. And that is how the people of Chelm ended up without neither a bathhouse, a mikveh, or feather beds.